From CRI Simple Numbers, this is Profitability Playbook, the Simple Numbers Podcast, a podcast for those championing market growth and anchoring the nation's economy, small businesses, and entrepreneurs.
Hey, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Simple Numbers Profitability Playbook Podcast. I'm Mike Maxon. That's Brandon Gray, and we're back for another week, man.
No doubt. Hey, we had a good weekend this weekend. So the Crimson Tide went into Georgia and took care of business. So yeah, Saturday was fun at my house.
You know, I don't know what type of relationship they're trying to put us through, but, you know, Florida State goes down to Virginia and, you know, you're thinking that Florida State was this big time team. And then, so you're just thinking like, oh boy, you know, that just hurt all kinds of things. Now Alabama goes out and beats Georgia, you know, after, and they lost to Florida State. I just can't, you know, I don't know where that came from. They're like bipolar to me. They're like my Cowboys right now.
You know, you just got to play the hand out. You don't know what other cards are going to be thrown.
That's right. Well, sweet. Well, in the spirit of football season, y'all know last week we were playing defense. And if you recall, it was a lot of, hey, revenue's declining. I have issues with my margin. How do I adjust my labor in the process? And so that allowed us to just, you know, really me putting Brandon through a fire drill of going, hey, how do I handle these issues, or what are some potential options, more or less to handle those issues. And so, to make it the other side now, we're going to play some offense. And believe it or not, in this economy, it's not all bad. People are playing offense. The ability to play offense is still there. And so now we're going to do a little bit of a rapid fire of going, hey, I got, so the market's working for me, or the demand's there, or my business is just humming along nicely. And what are some things we can do? And we'll dive into each area and see what we come up with. So Brandon, we're offense now, and you're going to play offense.
All right.
In the current market, so let's just set the stage first. The current market is the current market. We still have inflation. We still have unfavorable interest rates. We still have some consumer sentiment around the market. The economy is not positive. You still have tariffs, all those fun things, but you, my man, are getting some steam on some things. And so let's say for playing offense, we'll just start right at the top like we did last week. You got revenue coming in, and it's coming in at a healthy clip, maybe what you've been growing at before, 10, 15, 20%. Our 100 company model has companies, you know, growing anywhere from, you know, 7 to 12%, depending on your size. So what say you? Your offense is your offensive plays now regarding increasing revenue?
Well, if I have revenue, lead flow looks decent, what have you, in the current marketplace, I'm likely a necessity business. And so the first thing I want to try to determine is what's driving it. So where is my lead flow coming from? Is it marketing campaigns? Is it name recognition? Is it repeat customers? I want to get my hands around where it's coming from, because if I can figure that part out, I can pour more fuel on that fire. Every now and then we get on a call and, you know, they've got a nice uptick in revenue on the R12 trend, and we ask the question, what's driving it? And a handful of times we get an answer of, well, we did this or that or whatever it may be. But a lot of times we get, we're not really sure. For some reason, you know, the phone's ringing, people are calling, demand is high. And so I'm really going to challenge my team to make sure we're keeping up with the metrics around where is this business coming from? Because, you know, one thing we know about the current marketplace, especially when it comes to marketing, when it stops to work, it stops quickly, and it likely does not reset. So I've got to stay nimble. So I want to make sure that I've got one foot in today in terms of, okay, understanding where it's coming from, another foot in tomorrow, because I need to be experimenting with some different types of campaigns, sources, whatever it may be there, to kind of see what's the next move going to be. So it's kind of that thing of when you watch a football game and you wonder, why are we running up the middle all the time? It's not getting any yardage. Well, we're likely setting something up for a little bit later. And so I want to, look to see what do I need to be setting up for a little bit later. Secondly, if demand is really strong, I got to go back and look and make sure my pricing is where it needs to be relative to the current market, relative to what I'm delivering in a product or a service, and also in comparison to competitors. It could be the reason the phone's ringing is because everyone else has updated pricing and you haven't. And so I'm actually leaving dollars on the table. So I want to do a little bit of a study of that. So that's going to be the first thing. I just want to get my hands around why it's the case and where it's coming from. The next step, as we're famous for saying, revenue is vanity, profit is sanity. So I've got to make sure that I'm being efficient and profitable with the revenue that I'm bringing in. And this goes back to an episode or two that we recorded a little bit earlier as we were encouraging people to break down their business into different units and look at the gross margin and the contribution margin by business sector or by product or by customer or by client. And so I'm wanting to identify, okay, of the uptick that I'm seeing, is that coming from the areas that I have the highest margins in? So I want to peel back that onion another layer, because it could be, hey, revenue looks great, but I don't have anything on the bottom line. Well, that didn't really help.
Yeah.
As far as that part goes. So
I was just going to say that. I was just going to get into it. Are we assuming that gross margin is increasing as well, and that your gross margin is in line?
Right. So if we assume, let's make an assumption here, right? We're playing offense. Everything's looking great. So lead flow looks really good. We know where it's coming from. We're experimenting to determine the moves we might need to make next if the market starts to change or shift. So if defense changes on us, we know what we're going to go to next. We know the segment of our business, the customers, the clients, the product offering, the service offering that is driving it in it, and that is profitable. So we can check all those boxes. The next thing I'm going to look at is how much capacity do I have with my current team? And there's two things that I'm looking for here. So one is going to be on the direct labor side of the house. So you guys have heard us talk about direct labor efficiency probably every episode. So I'm looking back at my rolling 12 data across time and comparing that to where I currently am with my labor efficiency on the direct side of the house. And if I have room, if I haven't met my all-time records, I'm not adjusting payroll yet. Okay. I'm going to hold steady until I get right there at it, or maybe even pass it a little bit, especially if I've worked in some efficiencies and what have you into my systems and processes. And so I'm going to monitor that one. The second one I'm going to look at is my admin/management LER, as we call it, as we present management LER. So that, for everyone new listening, management labor, as we discuss it, includes both management team and administrative team. So anybody who's not directly delivering the product or service. I'm going to look at where that is running. And depending upon the size of my business, I kind of have some metrics that I can look at along with my history. So for example, if you're $5 to $6 million and under, typically speaking, general rule of thumb, I'm looking for a 350 to a 450 management LER. If I'm above that, as I get closer to 7, 8, 9, 10, I'm going to bump it $1. I'm looking at minimum 450 to 550. As I get above the 10 level, can I get above a 550? And so, for example, let's say I'm in a sector that's doing really well right now is home services. So let's say I'm in home services. I'm a $4.5 million, $5 million company. I look at my management LER and it's at a 3. Well, I should have some capacity there. So the question we'll ask on a call is, hey, is your admin management team running around with their hair on fire? If so, and I'm still at a low management LER, I've got to look at what they're spending their time doing, because they may not be spending their time on the appropriate tasks. So I'm going to adjust and shift and move to the most beneficial and necessary task, as we call it, the highest and best use for each row. And I'm going to squeeze as much out of that as I can. I'm going to try to get to that 450 level. This is a little bit of a change from years past. So I would say probably till about 2022. most everyone was running the play of demand starts to increase. As soon as I see the demand increase, I'm likely going to increase my labor. Why? Because the labor market was really tough. The margin generation engine was running really, really fast. And if I did not start looking very quickly to add labor, I was going to outkick my coverage. I was going to sell more than I could produce. Well, in most cases, not every case, but in most cases, that has shifted. Even if you're growing, you're not growing likely at the same pace that you were several years ago. And secondly, the labor market has shifted slightly to where there may be resources available. So instead of it taking you 3 months to find somebody, it might only take 6 weeks. It might only take 4 weeks to find that person. And so I'm kind of slow playing the labor side of the house.
So just to understand labor on playing offense on the labor, we have the two kinds of spend. There's catalytic labor spend and there's lagging labor spend. Are you saying in playing offense in today's market that maybe the better play could be more of a lagging labor spend where we see the push of the labor efficiency and squeezing as much out of that instead of making the catalytic hire, which for everyone out there, the catalytic hire being, if I hire it, they will come sort of thing. Right.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I would say
is that what you're saying for the play?
With everything we see in the market today, I'm likely going to lag a little bit on labor. Now, once again, this is generally speaking, there could be exceptions. The reason being is because the market is so uncertain. I can tell you plenty of examples to where we had clients that were growing, doing really well, were adding labor very quickly. And then almost overnight, the marketplace changed on them. And they were kind of left going, all right, do I carry the additional labor resources that I just hired and trained, even though margin generation has slowed down, or do I make reductions? And that's a tough spot to be in. And 9 times out of 10, what we'll see is folks will slow play it. They will not reduce as quick as they should. And so I'll carry it even a step further. We're seeing a lot of folks, even as they're playing offense, instead of making the next hire, if demand starts to jump up very quickly, they're looking at outside resources. Now, that won't work for every business, but where it can, they'll go, okay, let's bring on some contractors. Let's use a subject matter expert for my admin management labor temporarily, because I need to confirm from the marketplace that this is here to stay, that it's not just a seasonal bump or a slight bump in the marketplace that may not be able to be sustained. I'm going to slow walk labor as long as I can.
I like it. So let's recap real quick, everybody. Revenue play is increasing. We're playing offense. We have increasing revenue. After reviewing pricing and obviously making sure the segment's getting the highest margin there out of that revenue increase. We're examining those, make sure we can leverage that. And then from there, examining the labor plays of offense. And there's two kinds of catalytic and lagging. And what we're saying is in today's market, we're seeing a lot more of the lagging hiring going on where you don't see people just because, hey, revenue's increased the play I'm running, I'm adding labor willy-nilly, like maybe in the past. And so that's what we're doing there. So Brandon, the next play that happens, and when we see it in our 100 company model, the companies that are over 10 million that are getting a substantial amount of growth, you see them really investing in that OpEx as one of the play. Mm-hmm. They're getting the revenue growth, and you also see the OpEx going here. So, and I know we can, the low hanging fruit is effective and ineffective spend. We always, for everyone here listening, we always want that effective versus ineffective spend. Good market, bad market. You're always looking at that. But in this case, Brandon, for a company that's increasing in revenue, let's say we're making the right calls with our labor. We're not squeezing, we're not, over hiring or anything like that. Now we look at our OpEx. So looking at those things like maybe your facilities costs, your marketing, those other things that you might do, whether it's investing in your team and training, stuff like that, those other expenses. How are we now approaching that? And let's just start with the number one thing everyone's going to want to know in this conversation is your marketing spend. How are we looking at that first and then go to the other OpEx?
Sure. Yeah. So when we were discussing where is the uptick in revenue coming from, I mentioned something around marketing, that I want to identify what's driving it. And I also want to start experimenting. So as we look at marketing spend, very simply, there's three buckets that we kind of classify that spend into. So one would be like general brand awareness. And I'm oversimplifying here. Okay. So marketing experts, don't beat me up. General brand awareness, you got to have a website. Folks got to know who you are, those kind of things. The second thing is some type of call to action. So whether that's a promo, a special, whatever it may be, a limited time offer, I'm doing something to create urgency. And then the third thing, and this is probably the most critical and the most difficult, is experimental. So I'm going to identify a certain amount of dollars that I'm going to experiment with marketing in somewhat of a controlled environment so that I can test it. So that could be a list service. For example, we're talking about home services. It could be something like that. It could be a different media that I'm looking to use. Maybe I've seen, pay-per-click go down, which it likely is. And so, okay, I'm shifting and changing, and I might, here's one we heard the other day that's kind of odd. Outdoor advertising. When was the last time we were talking billboards and signage? Our sign clients.
Direct mail, man. Direct mail.
So, things, I'm going to experiment with some of those things, take a fixed amount that I'm willing to spend there to experiment and see what does it produce in return. And then if it's working, as I start to see the market shift and what have you, I can go throw more dollars into it. So on the marketing side, that's going to be the first one. I don't know if I'd put this in marketing, but it's somewhat this funny cross of marketing and labor. I'm going to really look at AI automation. And,
yes,
once again, depending upon the business that you're in, there's a lot of opportunities there to where, from a customer service, from a CSR scheduling, all those kind of things, there's some really cool packages out there that is better than the humans. So I'm going to look at potentially reinvesting in some of those areas for my business as well. Whenever it comes to the marketing side, might do some training on the sales side. Once again, the consumer has changed in the last few years. So we had a client that did a market study, and this was pretty cool. So the results showed, and this is no surprise, but a clear divide in their customer base between everyone who was a baby boomer and above. And I'd put Gen X, which, we in Gen X kind of get overlooked a lot, right? But I'd kind of put Gen X can kind of play in either of these buckets, but baby boomers and above. Traditional media advertising is what spoke to them, and value was the greatest driver to making a purchase. Then you go down to like millennials, Gen Y, and what have you. It was some type of referral, most likely coming through a digital avenue. So an online referral or what have you, an influencer that was driving their purchasing decision. And the number one driver was the ability to finance. So when you've got a team that's discussing these things with a potential customer, they may go to one customer who's not concerned at all about financing. They're more concerned about value. The very next call, they go to someone who financing is the number one thing. Well, I got to make sure I'm training them appropriately. And so I'm going to invest in a little bit of that. And I would tell you, in the last 3 to 6 months, I've had more clients ask us about sales training than in any time I can remember. So I'd look at it reinvesting into my team as far as that part is concerned, because I want to keep this going and I want to beat my competition when it comes to that. That'd be on the sales front.
One last thing I want to discuss, the capital investments, or the need to, hey, while things are good, I need to make, a capital investment into things. And people, this could be across the board, man. People might go get a new building or renovate their space, or they might go buy trucks, equipment. Hey, things are good. And this can be a play. I mean, this is offense too. It's like, hey, things are good. Now is the time to do it, if any. Then when things are going good, because obviously you wouldn't go buy that new truck maybe if things were tanking. So,
right.
Looking at it now, think capital investments, and let's close this discussion out with maybe, hey, we've grown the revenue. We've examined this labor piece, and we're deciding that we want to leverage our labor and not overhire. we're looking at OpEx, effective versus ineffective, but hey, what can I do from a marketing standpoint while controlling my other my other expenses to grow my brand, even grab more of a foothold than maybe I'm grabbing right now. But now it comes time to look at the rest of it and going, hey, maybe the opportunity to expand, replace, replenish, all that fun stuff comes into my mind. So what plays are we running here?
So one thing Greg Crabtree said a long time ago that has stuck with me, and this applies to a lot of different investments. He would say about buildings, don't fall in love with a building because a building won't love you back. And I've seen a lot of cases to where things were going well, folks moving to a new office because it's really cool or this, that, or the other. And then it's kind of like, was it really worth that extra? Maybe, maybe not, as far as that part goes. So I'm pretty cautious when it comes to those types of things. And what I would separate here is the necessity of the reinvestment versus the luxury of the reinvestment. Okay. So give you an example. And this is what we sometimes hear with clients before they start working with us. They're having a great year. It's October. They meet with their CPA because they know they're having a good year. And the CPA says, well, wait till after the 15th because I'm covered up till the 15th. So they wait till after the 15th. And they look at their taxable income and they go, man, you're going to pay a ton of taxes this year. Anything you need to go buy? Can you go buy a new truck? Can you go buy some new equipment? And they don't need the new truck and they don't need the new equipment, but they go and buy it because they're going, oh, well, I'll save all this money in taxes. Well, the correct terminology there is I will defer some taxes. And I'm not against deferring taxes. But when I look at, you went out and spent $100,000 on a new truck, what kind of return did I get on that versus if I went and put the $100,000 into a reinvestment back into my team? Because both are deductible, right? And so I want to look at, from a return on investment perspective, what's going to give me the highest return. Now, I would say in the current marketplace, we have a little bit of an opportunity that hasn't been as present in years past, and that's with acquisition. Now, I'm not saying every acquisition is a great opportunity because they're not. But if you do your work and you really turn over a lot of stones, in a lot of industries, you're finding businesses that are pretty good businesses that may have one leg broken in them, whether it's operations, sales and marketing, or finance, and a owner of that business who's ready to retire. And so, I'll give you a good example. It's the just slightly outside of your current footprint, but you still can service it. It's a business that has pretty good team members, has been around a long time, has some great name and brand recognition. The ability to grow is there. Assets that are in good shape that you can acquire. And you've got an owner who's 75 years old who says, you know what? I don't know how much longer I've got left. I'm ready to go ahead and enjoy life a little bit. Well, you likely can get a pretty decent deal on that business. And, you can fold its overhead into your existing overhead, leverage it quite nicely, expand your territory. There's a lot of cool things you can do. And there's a lot of folks because of, the baby boomer generation looking to retire now who are in those positions. And so I look pretty strongly at that one.
Kyle Ewing of TerraSlate. We had him on the podcast. Mm-hmm. I recommend you all check him out. He's a good follow. Now he has a family office company called Windward Equity, and they invest in businesses. And he says this is what they look for when they invest, but I think it also applies to potentially what you look for when you might buy. Is he said he loves investing in businesses that are founder led, where that founder is just like the workhorse, right? And so if you flip that to potential actual like acquisition opportunities, folks, and you can ask Brandon, we've been doing this a while. We have lots of clients that we've worked with in this space where the owners have spent a lot of years hustling, really doing everything for a while. And, hey, that it gets to a point where they realize like, hey, I'm maybe the bottleneck and if I merge or I'm acquired and I can still be involved and do this company can give me those things that I've been friggin' hustling on for years. And I thought that was a great point Kyle made from an investment standpoint, but from an acquisition opportunity, that's also pretty cool to be
Mm-hmm.
able to look and find a business that, hey man, that owner's done everything. And, he's just a bottleneck been in the way. Maybe he's more of a doer and just a bulldog. And he's just like, you know what? Yeah, please buy me. I'm happy to take a piece of and merge with you or whatever. And keep doing it. But I maybe need some relief. So I'd be
Right.
on the lookout for that too.
Yeah, I had one more thing as we close
Sweet.
out about playing offense. So back to the football analogy, the best offenses take what the defense will give them. If they're gonna stack the box, you're gonna throw the ball. If they're gonna go play dime and what have you, we're gonna run the ball. You work with what the defense is willing to give you, and I think the current marketplace is very similar to that. In that, you have to stay very nimble because the market's changing. It's changing very quickly. What worked, just from a sales and marketing perspective, what resonated and worked 3 weeks ago may no longer work today. The mindset of the consumer and their ability to spend is quickly changing. So from a marketing value proposition, all those kind of things, I've got to make sure that I'm staying on top of what that looks like. And so even though I'm playing offense, I'm thinking shorter term than longer term in a lot of cases, because I don't know how long I'm going to be able to play offense before we have a turnover and we got to go back out there on defense. So right now, yes, I'm playing it, but I'm being somewhat cautious. Now, the market in general starts to change and more folks are able to play offense and we're humming along. Sure, we'll throw deep more. But in the current environment, I'm playing it, but I'm being cautious.
Awesome. Well, sweet. I like this one. This was good. We
That's fun.
wrapped up our
Anytime you
little
put football and
series
business together,
here.
it's a win.
Heck yeah. Well, all right. Well, let's Brandon, we got anything else? I always go to close it out and then you remind me I'm missing something.
So we've mentioned the last couple of episodes if you haven't, if you haven't signed up for our Simple Numbers newsletter, if you want to get information from us sent over to you into your inbox, please go to our website, crisimplenumbers.com. You can go there. It's real easy to sign up. We're sending more and more information out on that, so you don't want to miss out as far as that part goes. And as always, we're growing this thing. Our number of listeners keeps going up each month, which is very encouraging. Starting to get a little bit of traction. So please share it. Colleagues, friends, other entrepreneurs. If you're in a group, a peer group, an industry group, a franchise group, whatever it may be. One thing that we're doing right now is we are booking up speaking engagements for 2026. And we do a lot of work with peer groups. So whether that's just as simple as a presentation coming in and we can kind of present on Simple Numbers in that playbook, all the way to there's a lot of cases to where groups are meeting together and they want to have a better understanding of the financial picture for each company. We'll get everybody in the group's data ahead of time of meeting, put it into our Simple Numbers modeling. So we're all comparing apples to apples, and you can have some really cool conversations when everybody's looking at the number in the same format. And so that's something else we possibly can do. But yeah, reach out to myself, reach out to Mike. If you're part of one of those groups and you need a speaker for next year, you need somebody to talk at a forum meeting. If you want to go all the way and have us, look at financial information for your group, we're happy to do all of that. Just get in touch with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, awesome. Well, great talking to you, Brandon, today. I know you're at the house, so it was good to see you. I will now ignore you the rest of the day. So,
thank you. I can get some work
anyways, all right, everyone. For Brandon, I'm Mike, and we will catch y'all next week.
See y'all.
If you want to know more about driving sustainable profitability for your business or are interested in learning more about CRI Simple Numbers, please visit our website at simplenumberscri.com. Thanks for listening to this episode of Profitability Playbook, the Simple Numbers Podcast. You can subscribe to Profitability Playbook on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you prefer to listen to podcasts. If you like what you heard today, please leave us a review. This podcast is brought to you by CRI Simple Numbers LLC, a division of CRI Capital Group LLC, and a subsidiary of CRI Advisors LLC. CRI is the trusted brand under which Carr, Riggs & Ingram LLC, the CPA firm, and CRI Advisors LLC, along with its subsidiaries, deliver professional services. Please note, Carr, Riggs & Ingram LLC is a licensed independent CPA firm offering attest services, whereas CRI Advisors LLC and its subsidiaries specialize in providing tax and business consulting services. These entities operate within an alternative practice structure as defined by the AICPA Code of Professional Conduct and comply fully with applicable laws, regulations, and professional standards. Ready to simplify your business finances and drive growth? Explore valuable resources, books, and tools designed for entrepreneurs and small businesses at simplenumberscri.com.